All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is presentation from the holster to the target. All right, now, this presentation from the holster is kind of something that in our prior shooting we've kind of assumed has already taken place, right? We've had you guys kind of pointed in at the target as you're starting your shooting position, right? Okay, so now what we're going to do is put the pieces in place that got you there, all right? This is the presentation from the holster. Now there's two different standard kind of carry techniques that we're going to cover here. One is the gun is on the strong side hip, either inside the waistband, outside the waistband. The other would be kind of front of body, what we often call appendix carry position. So weapon in here. I'm going to cover both of those, but we're going to start with the strong side hip first. All right. Now, before we do that, let's remember that what we're going to try to do as part of this presentation is incorporate the way that our body responds naturally into that. So the first thing that we're likely going to have is some kind of a startle reaction to a stimulus. All right. So the way that we're going to do this here on the range is you're going to hear me say react. And when you hear me say react, we're going to do those three things that we know, right? We're going to look in the direction of wherever that stimulus came from. Our hands are going to come up in somewhat of a protective posture, and then we're going to lower our center of gravity because we've shown that this is what happens naturally. So let's start our presentation from where our hands are going to be and the way our body is going to be positioned. So after you hear that react command, next thing you're going to hear is grip. Right? So at this point, you're going to come over and drive down on the gun, get a good firing grip. Okay, this is the grip that we're going to be shooting with, so we want to get a good grip here. At the same time, if we have any retention devices, we're going to go ahead and defeat those. We might have a button that we need to push on either the inside or outside of the holster. Lots of different retention. If you've got retention, I'll work with you to make sure you understand how to work that. All right. Now, at this point, you're going to hear that command to come straight up out of the holster. Now notice I'm coming straight up out of the holster and I'm keeping the gun tight to my body, all right? Now, after that, you hear orient. So I'm now orienting the gun towards the threat. I just dropped that elbow, the gun remains tight to the body, and the extend command is gonna cause those hands to come together. We're gonna go through that high compressed ready position and out to full extension, touch, press, touch, press, touch, press, all right? And now, we decide that that may have ended the threat, so we come back into that high compressed ready and we assess our environment. And we're actually looking around and assessing our environment. We're seeing what's in our environment. Okay, this is not a time to just spin your head. This is the time to actually look and make sure you're comprehending and thinking about what you're seeing. Did something change from the last time you looked at that environment? All right, assume now that you've figured out that your world seems reasonably safe, and so we're going to go ahead and look the gun into the holster, keeping that finger straight all the way down. All right, so that's presentation from the holster from the strong side. All right, now let's talk about front of body. Now it's going to largely be the same. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take my cert, put it in my simulated appendix holster here. All right, now from here, it's going to be largely the same. So you're going to have react and then grip. Now, on grip, in order to get good access, we're going to kind of open our hips up a little bit, right? This also helps with our keeping our muzzle in as safe a direction as possible as we come out of the holster, right? We're bringing it straight up against our body. That muzzle now is kind of riding out in front of my feet just a little bit. It's in a pretty safe direction. Now, that orient changes here a little bit, okay? The orientation here, we're going to bring the muzzle up kind of in this sideways position. And now, as we extend, those hands are coming together, and we're extending out to the target. Touch, press, decide our world is safe. So we come back to that high compressed ready, assess our environment, and now as we go to holster, we're going to reverse that process, right? So we're going to come down, orient it down, open those hips up, and then look it right down into the holster. All right, so that is presentation from the holster. Now we're going to practice this extremely slowly at first. All right, we're going to have our concealment garments out of the way. We're just going to have easy access to the firearm so that we can keep an eye on this and make sure that we're running it safely. All right, once we do that, then we'll introduce those cover garments in. I'll work with each of you guys a little bit individually with your particular cover pattern, and we'll make sure that you guys fully understand the safe way to effectively present the weapon from the holster. All right, are there any questions?